I'm Chris Hansen, right now on Crime Watch Daily from here in New York City. A college student hitches a ride home from a party and turns up dead in the woods.
That was the end of our happiness.
The coroner says he froze to death. His family doesn't believe it.
No one can deny my eyes. I saw my son.
Do you feel in your heart your son was murdered?
Multiple bruises on his body, 2 autopsies, a suspect grilled by cops.
I do know for sure the first hit, I hit him dead square in his face.
Narissa Knight with a mother's battle to prove investigators wrong.
Why did you assert that there was no foul play suspected?
Plus, can a drop of blood unmask a killer? Detectives in Georgia using groundbreaking technology catch the mystery man who killed Lori Smith.
She was in the fight for her life.
Right now.
Go, let's go.
Jason Matera with Crime Watch Daily.
I'm Michelle Sagona from Crime Watch Daily.
This
Elizabeth Smart from Crime Watch Daily.
It's Anna Garcia from Crime Watch Daily. You got anything to say?
is Crime Watch Daily.
What do you mean you don't know she's 13? You're running away now?
Welcome to Crime Watch Daily, everyone. I'm Chris Hansen. You are watching a pickup truck drive off after being stopped by state police in Illinois. Some believe the driver of that car was hiding a deadly secret that night. Our Narissa Knight is in Carbondale now with breaking news on the controversial case.
He went out to a party, but he never made it home. College sophomore Pravin Varughese found dead in the middle of nowhere.
I knew our world ended. That was the, I guess, end of our happiness.
But how did he die? Was it cold?
The coroner called me and said hypothermia was the reason.
Or was it cold-blooded murder?
When I saw the injuries to his forehead, the huge bruise on his arm, the bruise on his leg, I was appalled. You could just tell, like, he's been beat up. He's been beat up. What's going on?
The answer lies here, on this lonely stretch of Route 13.
He realized I wasn't playing. I needed him to get out of my truck. I was ready to go home.
Priya Varughese says 19-year-old Pravin is the best brother anyone could want.
Pravin was always so funny. He was always making sure everyone's laughing. He's a social butterfly. He loves his friends and hanging out with people and his family.
On a cold weeknight in February, Pravin makes his usual call home from Southern Illinois University, where he's a sophomore. It's the last time his parents would ever speak to him.
He called home every night. Every single day we talked to him. We both talked to him that night at around 9.
That same night in Carbondale, he attends a party off campus. The stories vary as to what happens next, but at around 11 p.m., police say that Pravin gets in a pickup truck driven by a relative stranger, 22-year-old Gage Bethune, who is leaving another party on the same street. Exactly where they're going and why remains a mystery. Shortly after midnight, a state trooper pulls up with his dashboard camera rolling behind Bethune's truck, already parked along Highway 13 in Carbondale with the flashers blinking. Bethune is alone. That's him approaching the camera, and Pravin is nowhere to be seen. According to the trooper's report, Bethune says that he picked up an African-American male hitchhiking. He says the man tried to rob him and then took off down the sloping hillside from the road and into the woods. Local radio host Monica Zukas has been on top of the story since the beginning.
Why didn't that trooper go look for whoever we now know he said had robbed him? Are we missing something?
The trooper briefly shines a flashlight into the trees and sees nothing. Bethune heads off for home, and normally that might be the end of it. The trooper's report makes no mention of Pravin, and the local Carbondale police are not alerted of the incident until days later.
If somebody was just robbed, we've got a potential criminal now on the loose. Why aren't we looking for him?
But for Pravin and his family, it's only the beginning of a saga that will change lives forever. That same morning, Lovely Varughese, Pravin's mother and a hospital nurse, says she wakes up with a profound feeling of dread that will not go away.
The whole time I was crying and I didn't know why. I went into the chapel in the hospital and I sat there and I cried and I still don't know why.
Later that day, she gets a call from police. Pravin, affectionately called Wawa by his parents, has been reported missing by a cousin in Carbondale.
So I screamed here to my husband. I said, I can't find Wawa.
She and her husband Matthew drop everything and drive 300 miles south to Carbondale to help find their son. In fact, they end up in a hotel almost within sight of the very spot where Bethune's truck was parked on the side of Route 13.
If we look through the hotel window, it was the woods this side and this side was Highway 13.
And that's when Lovely has a powerful dream that haunts her for days, while police and Pravin's friends comb the city for her son with no luck.
The dream I had was he's in a car, somebody is driving him, and I see the door open and somebody is pushing him and he is rolling on the slope. In Indian culture, they say if you have an early morning dream, it is true. And I said, I have a feeling somebody has him.
The local airwaves are filled with news of the missing college student. And now police get a phone call from a cousin of Gage Bethune, the driver of that pickup truck that was pulled over on Route 13. The cousin says Bethune recognized Pravin's face on TV and admitted he had been in the truck with him that night. Bethune voluntarily comes in for questioning. Police intend to get to the bottom of this, but little do they know they have barely begun.
Are you aware that the statement is being taped?
Yes, sir.
Next, police grill the last man to see Pravin alive.
He was on the phone with somebody. He was talking to somebody about cocaine. I said, I'm with the wrong person. I got to get him out of my vehicle.
We return with more on the mystery on Route 13. College student Pravin Varughese is missing, and as the search continues, a young man watching the story on the local news would arrive at the police station and provide a game-changing interview. Narissa Knight is back with that.
The college town of Carbondale, Illinois is stunned by the sudden disappearance of popular student Pravin Varughese. Police helicopters, dogs, and hundreds of volunteers search for him everywhere. And now detectives sit down with the last person believed to have seen him alive.
The following is a taped statement taken from Gage Bethune.
Gage Bethune was driving this pickup truck parked on Route 13, caught on dash cam video the night Pravin went missing. Bethune told the trooper who pulled up behind him on the scene that he was robbed by a man he picked up hitchhiking. But now his story seems to be changing. He tells detectives it was Pravin who asked him for a ride as he left an off-campus party. And Bethune says he thinks Pravin was looking for drugs.
I offered the main ride. Driving along, right here. Make a left here, right here, 30 minutes goes by, yada, yada, yada. Talking on the phone to his friends about some cocaine, whatever it was.
Do you remember how long his phone conversation was?
No, sir.
Did it seem like he made multiple calls?
Probably 2 to 3.
Did it sound like he ever successfully arranged for anything?
Not successfully. Maybe we were spending so much time and, just driving circles.
But there could be a hole in that story big enough to drive his truck through.
Would there be any reason that his phone records show that he didn't make any calls during that time you were with him?
I mean, hell, he could have been on the phone acting like he's on the phone.
He didn't make any calls. He didn't receive any calls.
Then he was talking to himself.
Okay.
But he was talking.
But police do find an incoming text on Pravin's phone from earlier that evening, possibly from someone dealing drugs. And later, text from Pravin's phone that stated, "Got some yay?" and "Got 2 G's." Yay is a common street term for cocaine. But there's one big problem with that theory. Lovely Varughese, Pravin's mother, says her son has no history of buying drugs or using them.
We have Pravin's phone record, his text messages, his Facebook messages. We have thousands and thousands and thousands. There is not a single one that he talked about drugs.
Until that night.
Only that night, just that one time. So we don't know whether somebody else texted from his phone or somebody else told him to text that.
Back in the truck, Bethune says things start getting ugly.
You know, I asked him multiple times, where are you going, where's your destination? He can't really give me an exact spot. And I told him, look, I gotta go. And he wasn't cooperating, and that's when he started to rage a little bit. And it's when he punched me in my eye, and I pulled over on the side of the road.
Bethune says Pravin got out of the truck and that the two of them grappled as they rolled down the hill.
A couple, hits were exchanged on the way. He was on top of me at one point, and I was on top of him at one point. Never once, fight maybe lasted 30 seconds. I wouldn't even really call it a fight. A little scuffle, I do know for sure the first hit, I hit him dead square in his face.
And right about then, police say there is at least one unintentional call from Pravin's phone, a pocket dial answered by a female friend. That friend told police she heard a male voice telling Pravin to, quote, give me that back, and what sounded like Pravin replying, I'm trying to help you, and give me my pills back. And she says she heard the sound of someone running before she discontinued the call.
Do you remember anybody saying the phrase, I'm trying to help you?
No, sir.
Was that something you would have said to him?
I mean, he had punched me in my face. I don't remember, no, I'm trying to help you.
All right.
In a second interrogation, police asked Bethune about a story he told friends shortly after the incident with Pravin.
I didn't know the kid was missing. I told the story. I wanted to sound like I wasn't scared. Like I was Mr. Tough Guy, I don't want my friends to think I'm weak. I told him, the kid he was kind of scared of me. He jumped out real quick, he took off running. And I chased him and I hit him. He turned around and I just hit him and just knocked him out. So I told him.
But now Bethune is telling police that Pravin ran into the woods just before the trooper pulled up. The stories don't seem to match up, but at least detectives know where to search. And the next day, they make a horrific discovery in the woods about 400 yards from where the truck was parked. It's Pravin, dead. And now the Varughese family gets the dreaded knock on the door of their hotel room where they wait for any news of Pravin.
He said, Pravin is found. And I said, is he alive? He said, no. That was it. All our family was there. So there was like all this screaming from everyone. I knew our family is not going to be the same anymore.
But Lovely is a trained nurse, and she has her suspicions about how her son died. She demands to see his body, and what she sees shocks her beyond belief.
As we walked in, I saw the bruise on his forehead, and somehow the word came out of my mouth. I said, who beat my baby? Who beat my son?
Local radio show host Monica Zoukas investigates big local news stories and has dug deep into this case.
This family has had to fight like hell.
She obtained a folder of evidence photos, most of them too disturbing to air on television.
This is 2 different dents, and then he also has 2 or 3 other strikes to his head that are also bruises. You don't want to show this, but the bruise was so deep, it was into the muscle, to the bone.
And the Varughese family is stunned all over again when Carbondale Police Chief Jody O'Gwyn gives this answer at a press conference shortly after Pravin is found and before an autopsy is performed.
So since no foul play is suspected, I take it that the condition of the body would lead you to believe that there hadn't been a fight, he wasn't injured physically.
There were no obvious signs of trauma that would be caused by something other. By any kind of a suspicious means or any kind of altercation, so no outward signs that we were able to see.
Next, 2 autopsies, 2 very different findings. Did Pravin die of hypothermia? His family fights to prove he was murdered.
And after we saw the injuries, I knew the injuries caused his death.
And the police chief under scrutiny.
Why did you assert that there was no foul play suspected?
A popular college student is found dead, and even though his body appears to be badly bruised, the medical examiner says he simply died from exposure to cold weather. However, his family believes he was killed, and as our Narissa Knight reports, they may finally get the justice they say they've been waiting for.
Heartbreak hits the family of Pravin Varughese. Pravin found dead in the woods off Route 13 in Carbondale, Illinois, after his fateful ride in Gage Bethune's pickup truck.
Everybody was screaming and crying and all that. I knew our world ended. That was the, I guess, end of our happiness.
Adding to the hurt, Lovely Varughese says her son's reputation is still taking a pounding even after his death.
When I met with the state's attorney, he tried to tell me that my son was involved in many illegal activities. He tried to paint a picture of my son who was a drunk and drug dealer, and he told me, you thought you had a model son. He was not the model son you thought you had.
A report from State's Attorney Michael Carr says that multiple witnesses described Varughese as either intoxicated or highly intoxicated.
Let's say he was. Let's say what they say is true.
Even if he was high and intoxicated, he never should have died that night. The injuries killed him.
Now, the anxiously awaited results of Pravin's autopsy are released, and they are equally shocking to the family.
And the coroner called me and said hypothermia was the reason, no injury.
But Lovely doesn't buy it, and remember, she's a registered nurse.
I saw every single injury on my son. So when the authorities started telling me, and the autopsy said there is no injury, I said no one can deny my eyes. I saw my son.
The autopsy says there is an absence of significant trauma and that the body has abrasions and scratches associated with being found in a wooded area.
The funeral home director, after he saw Pravin, came to us and said, you need to see your baby. He has injuries. This is not a frostbitten body.
Oddly, the report also calls Pravin a Middle Eastern male and at one point a female. And a handwritten note in the report reaffirms death from hypothermia, saying there is, quote, no reason for his bizarre behavior and hiding in the woods. But as far as any alleged drugging goes, Pravin's toxicology report comes back negative.
They tested him for every single drug under the sun. And I knew 100% Pravin will come back negative for drugs. Alcohol, these are college kids. So, I wasn't sure. I have never seen him drunk.
The family hits back and commissions a second autopsy. And now it's almost as if the two coroners are talking about two different bodies.
The first autopsy said the markings on his forehead was postmortem discoloration, no injuries. The second one, total, there are 22 injuries listed in his autopsy.
The second autopsy concludes that the underlying cause of Pravin's death is significant blunt force trauma to the head and notes at least 3 separate injuries and a defensive injury to the right arm, but says the immediate cause and the manner of death is undetermined, pending further investigation.
I do have strong opinions at this point, but they are all from documents like these.
Monica Zukas is a local radio host and activist for families of victims. She's been a clearinghouse of information on the case, obtaining documents through Freedom of Information requests and interviewing witnesses.
All I know is somebody's baby had major injuries, and they were trying to bury that baby and say he didn't have injuries, and that was not happening on my watch.
His head is indented here and here.
Yes. This is what in the first autopsy they had a ruler out, they measured it, but called it natural process of the body.
She agrees that hypothermia is a factor in Pravin's death. However,
cause of death and manner of death are two different things. If it's 19 degrees out and I duct tape you to a tree, your cause of death is probably going to be hypothermia, but your manner of death is foul because I rendered you unable to get yourself to safety. I feel like that's exactly what the situation is.
Yet, even with the second autopsy results, the visible injuries on Pravin's body, and no evidence of drugs in his system, a grand jury declines to indict Bethune for any crime. But Pravin's family isn't finished with their fight for justice. They file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the city of Carbondale, the police, and Bethune.
There was public report saying that we filed lawsuits in hopes of collecting money. No money in the world is going to bring us Pravin back.
On the heels of that action, Carbondale Police Chief Jody O'Gwynn is suddenly fired, although the department says it has nothing to do with the Pravin Varughese case.
Mistakes were made. There's no doubt about it, mistakes were made. Whether some of those mistakes were intentional or not, it doesn't matter at this point. They could have done better in many areas.
Lovely refused to give up. For more than 3 years, she fought to get justice for her son. The family did finally drop the suit against the police and the city, but reached a settlement with Gage Bethune. Then a dramatic milestone as a new special prosecutor once again brings the case before a grand jury. This time, they come back with a stunning indictment, a charge of first-degree murder against Gage Bethune.
We got the news that we can put our mind to peace. All our work, 3.5 years, paid off.
Is this a victory for you?
I'm not calling this as a victory. I'm not calling this as a victory at all. It is a peace of mind.
In a written statement to Crime Watch Daily, the Carbondale Police Department says it is an ongoing case, and pending an outcome in the case, we cannot comment. We are unable to by law. But today, former police chief Jody O'Gwynn agrees to sit down with Crime Watch Daily as we demand answers about the case and why he so quickly dismissed the possibility it was murder.
Jumping to your press conference that you gave on February 18th, why did you assert that there was no foul play suspected? This was before the autopsy results were in.
And we did ask the coroner if the injuries on Pravin's body were consistent with being in an altercation, or if they were consistent with running through a heavily wooded area in total darkness, where he had the possibility that he could run into trees, he could run through a barbed wire fence, which was on the property at the time. The coroner did explain to us that that could be the cause of those injuries as well. So we were going on information from the coroner.
And his take on Gage Bethune's guilt or innocence?
I do think he has some culpability in it. Because he was involved in the altercation with Pravin. However, I don't personally believe that he was the cause of Pravin's death.
Gage Bethune has pleaded not guilty to murder and is free on $100,000 bail as he awaits trial beginning later this fall. The Varughese family says they're now leaving it to the judge and jury to decide exactly what or who killed Pravin. A force of nature or an act of man. But Pravin's mom says her verdict is already in.
Do you feel in your heart your son was murdered?
I do believe he was murdered. If we believed everything we were told, we would have lived our life blaming our son for his death. That's the saddest thing.
Right now, Gage Bethune isn't doing interviews as he prepares for trial. However, his defense attorney tells us he believes the evidence will show his client is not guilty. He just sent us a rather lengthy statement that reads in part, first, Gage did not murder Pravin. He performed no acts causing the death of Pravin. Second, Gage did not rob or attempt to rob Pravin. Gage, with the support of his family and friends, intends to fight these charges to the bitter end in a court of law, not the court of public opinion. He goes on to say, by law, Gage is presumed innocent. You can read the entire statement and get up-to-the-minute updates on this story right now at crimewatchdaily.com.
Coming up,
A young woman murdered just steps from her parents' house.
I opened the door and she was laying in a puddle of blood in the middle of the floor.
Did Lori have a stalker, or was it a random attack? The groundbreaking new technology that could help police unmask the monster behind her murder.
Justice needs to be served.
Next. Every year, exciting new technology is introduced to law enforcement to help them catch criminals. Everything from high-definition body cams to new police sketch software. Well, today we've got more on a brand new breakthrough in DNA technology that may finally help solve a murder. Can the portrait of a killer be extracted from his own blood?
When we actually saw that image,
groundbreaking new DNA technology may finally pull a suspect out of hiding. But just whose face is it police are trying to unmask? And what exactly has he done?
She had no clothes on.
There was a pool of blood, and you could see drag marks.
she was in the fight for her life.
She did everything right, worked hard, loved her friends and family, and in her small town of Cliftondale, Georgia, 28-year-old Lori Ann Smith even served as a youth leader at her church.
Lori was very attached to the community, very much involved in the local church, youth activities.
Her passion was the guitar. I mean, if you look through the pictures that she had of herself, she had her guitar everywhere.
She was just a good, down-to-earth, solid person.
In fact, even though Lori had traveled all over the world as an international business major, the prototypical good girl had chosen to come back to rural Georgia to live close to her parents. Very close.
Where Lori lived had been in her family for years. Now, her parents' house was located directly behind Lori's house.
Her house was right next door to their house. Lori had her own house that she rented. So, I mean, it's not like she had to live there. She wanted to live there.
It was a decision she made to be near the people she loved. Ironically, a decision that would tear the family apart. She was only a few hundred feet away the last time Lori's mom spoke to her.
On May 24th, her mom called her about 9 p.m.
She says, "I'm very tired." They camped out the night before. She played the guitar till about 2:30 in the morning, came home, was already undressed, gonna get her shower and go to bed.
Sometime after that, something very bad happened in the house on the other side of the yard.
May 25th. The next morning, Lori's mom and dad wake up. They're getting ready to go to the church. They give Lori a call. There was no answer at the phone.
I went and knocked on the door with no answer. I opened the door and she was laying in a puddle of blood in the middle of the floor. The worst moment of my life.
It was a nightmare of the worst kind. I picked up the phone and I called 911.
Lieutenant Roger Peace of the Fulton County Police takes us back to the crime scene for an exclusive look at what investigators found.
We believe this door is the door that the assailant entered the home. We found blood on these steps. Also, where the screen has been cut out, that's where blood was collected.
Lori's parents believe the intruder may have entered using a skeleton key, though police say it's just as likely Lori felt safe enough to leave the door unlocked.
We found no signs of forced entry, and once he entered the door, we believe he would have encountered Lori.
She was fully unclothed. She was not going to open the door for anybody without clothing on. I think she was very surprised and startled.
And after that, she fought.
We could tell that there was a very significant struggle. We had lamps turned over. We had sheeting pulled off the bed. Over here we have the desk that we believe Lori was under at one time. We believe that because there was a pool of blood and you could see drag marks on the floor where Lori's body was dragged from underneath the desk.
Evidence police say shows Lori resisted until it became impossible.
She sustained abrasions on her face, contusions on both her arms and legs, as well as she sustained multiple gunshots. Lori fought for her life in this very room, and it was a fight that she didn't win.
But while the evidence painted a clear picture of how Lori died, detectives are left baffled as to why. It's not the kind of crime that happens in a town like this, and even at first glance, detectives can tell Lori Ann Smith did not fit anyone's normal profile for such a violent end.
She had no enemies. She was not romantically involved with anyone. She was basically considered a very low-risk person to be a victim of a violent crime.
And yet that's exactly how she ended up. But did she also leave detectives the key to finding her killer? In addition to finding bloody shoe prints for a men's size 10.5 Nike Cortez running shoe,
somewhere during this struggle, she either injured him bad enough that he was bleeding heavily, or he may have shot himself. His blood was found in the living room by the entry-exit door to the porch, the porch screen door, and on the steps leading away from the house.
it's the kind of evidence homicide detectives count themselves lucky to find. A crime scene signed with the suspect's own DNA. But first, they had to find him. And no one was expecting just how twisted that hunt would become. Coming up,
somebody was stalking her.
The murderer's face scientifically emerges from a drop of blood. She had just gotten off the phone with her mom when police believe Lori Ann Smith was murdered. And after years of searching for her killer, a revolutionary new technology may finally give them the break they need. It's how no parent should find their child.
Brutally murdered less than 250 feet from their own house, and had to be horrific for them.
My dad, for weeks and probably even months after he found Lori, continued to go next door to wish her a good day, because that was part of his regular pattern.
Well, I just miss her being here, miss her being around.
Shortly after Lori Smith was found shot to death in her home, detectives found the killer's blood all over the crime scene. A trail of DNA they hope will lead straight to his front door. But while they wait for those results to come back from the lab, police canvassed the neighborhood for leads.
We found a neighbor who only lived a couple houses down, stated in about 2 a.m. he thought he heard what he described as being gunshots. He said he knows he heard about 3, but maybe there was more. We also found a neighbor who, at the time that Lori was cutting grass, he observed a red car drive by Lori's house, as well as his house, very slowly. The vehicle turned around and made another pass, drove by again. Then about 10 minutes later, he sees the car drive by again, very slowly, past both of the houses.
Was the person driving that car the one who fired those shots? And another question. How did the killer know to enter Lori's house through the back door in the first place?
You would have to know how to enter the house because the front door was not used. You had to enter in the back and go through the porch to enter the main room. That was all behind the house. I mean, so it was all hidden.
And the list of people who might know that secret was a small one. But the family did have some theories of their own.
Somebody was stalking her.
We did focus on one neighbor very hard. He was a security officer. He was armed. He lived nearby and knew Lori's daily routine.
And there was just something about his alibi.
He said he was running out at 11 o'clock to go get barbecue and then fell asleep on the couch without even eating it. It just did not sound right. We did have a good feeling that this could be a suspect.
But detectives would need more than intuition.
We got consent to collect his DNA, and it was determined not to match the DNA of the offender left at the scene.
In fact, when the lab work finally came back, the suspect's DNA didn't match anyone on their radar or in any known database. It was a smoking gun being held by a ghost.
We've eliminated over 119 people that we've collected DNA from. It is frustrating to have the evidence you need, but you just cannot put a name to that evidence that you have. It makes you think, where is this person now? Did this person only commit one crime? Is this person dead? Or is this person in prison and his DNA has never been entered into CODIS to give us that match?
Questions that have gone unanswered for the past 20 years. But then, just months ago,
there is new information.
A major break in the investigation.
As the DNA technology progressed, we resubmitted the DNA to a private company. This company was able to identify the DNA as not only being that of a male, but said it was that of a black male. So that eliminated a lot of suspects.
But it was still only part of the picture. What police really needed was an eyewitness who could describe the suspect's face, and they were about to find one in the killer's own blood.
The newest technology that was developed actually coincidentally through the Department of Defense with the fight on terrorism looks at your DNA and your genetic markers and traits, and it basically reverse engineers your DNA. It's looking at those markers that make you African American, that make you Caucasian, that make you red-headed, blue-eyed, and it takes all of those different markers that make you who you are, and we can essentially create a photograph snapshot of what that person should look like based on those DNA markers.
The program developed by Parabon Nanolabs is called Snapshot, and after testing the blood found at Lori's crime scene, these are the composites it produced, one for how the suspect may have looked then and how he might look today. But for the family, it only raises more questions.
And we as a family met to look at this image. We all had our own scenarios, and we would tell the police what our scenarios were. And when we actually saw that image, none of us recognized that person. None of us had any idea who that person was.
And no one can say if Lori did either, opening up the possibility of a random attack.
I believe Lori was targeted. Was it just somebody who seen her cutting grass that day? Or was it somebody who's been looking at Lori for a long time?
Regardless, police believe this is the face of the man who did the targeting, and they hope the public will step up to help give him a name.
You could be wrong, and that's okay. That's why we have our crime lab that can test the DNA.
We're asking people to go back in their memories. We got a suspicious red car that's driving up and down the street. We've got a person that wore Nike shoes. We know he's a black male. We know he's familiar with the Cliftondale area. We know that he was injured, and we know he had access to a handgun. It is time to give this family the peace of mind. Let them have closure.
Not that anything will ever truly be closed for Lori's loved ones.
We will never get over it, but justice needs to be served.
I really miss it that my son didn't get to know her. Last night, trying to look for what pictures I had of Lori, I watched her hold him the day after he's born. Those are things I've not shown my son. And last night I felt bad about that. He never got to know her. Somebody took her